So I would like to begin tonight to talk about one of the holiest and the most powerful months that we have, which is the month of Nisan, as we approach the Yontif of Pesach. The night of Pesach, to me, is three things. The first thing that we'll talk about, of course, when we come to the Seder, is freedom. Now, I just want to give you an example of something that we could tell our children this year that perhaps we couldn't have explained to them in previous years. I do not want to get involved at all in the politics of President Trump's attitude towards immigrants or not. But if you would take a look at the pictures of those people on the borders with their children, frightened out of their minds, hoping to have been able to leave a country, and then they're turned away. They can't get into the country. There was just a picture of a group of children. It broke my heart, from Syria. It's true, Syria. 3 kids that were in Toronto, and they're going to be sent back. And you had to see the fear on their faces. And if you look in the airports, and the pictures in the airports, and at the borders, that's what Klal Yisrael was all about. We looked like that. We were trying to get out of Mitzrayim. We were frightened out of our minds. We were being beaten. We had slave labor. And we thought we'll never get out of there. And that's exactly what we have to explain to our children. Again, not getting involved in any politics, what the situation is today around the world. But just look at those faces. Those faces show you the desperation and the fear of people who want to be free. And that's what Klal Yisrael was like before they got out of Mitzrayim. So we have a lot to be grateful for, that we live in the greatest country in the world, and that we can have 100,000 people at MetLife Stadium for a Siyam Hashas. And Baruch Hashem, outside this shul tonight here in Young Israel, West Hempstead, there are no cops there. There's no barbed wire. You go to many countries in Europe. I was in France just last year. It happened to be a few weeks after that terrible incident on that Friday afternoon. There were more cops with guns than there were kids in school. It's frightening. We live in a great country. And we have to appreciate freedom, and we have to explain to our children how fortunate we are that we can do everything that we're able to do in America. And that's part of the freedom. The second thing is to talk about the festivity, the happiness, the Simchas HaYontif. And the third thing, of course, is family. Perhaps there's no other Yontif that we get together with family than any other Yontif throughout the year. Pesach is the time when people, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, we all get together. And that's the first story that I want to tell you tonight. First of all, I give every single one of you a bracha. Every one. You should be zeicha to sit at a Seder with children and grandchildren. There is no greater feeling in the world when you're sitting at the head of the table and all the children, sometimes you can't get all the kids, their families are, Baruch Hashem, growing, but to sit with children and grandchildren at a Seder table, there's nothing like it in the universe. So this story happened a number of years ago when my grandson, who is now learning in Eretz Yisrael, but at that time he was 3-4 years old. Avram Zelik, a friend of Manny Wertman's son. They played ball together. So Avram Zelik was 3 years old at the time. And you know that a 3-year-old cannot follow the Seder. So he's running from the dining room to the kitchen to the living room with his toys, coming in back and forth and back and forth. And then we're at this point in the Seder, which is one of the happiest moments, when we all pick up the cup of wine and we're going to sing V'hisha Amda together. And just as we're about to start V'hisha Amda, and I was about to pick up the kais, my grandson Avram comes over to me and he says, Zaidi, can I sit on your lap? Well, Mitzvah Hashem, anybody who will be a Zaidi or is a Zaidi or a Bubby, when your grandson wants to sit on your lap, what's the question? I said, Avram, come right here, of course. So now, if you're a righty, you're supposed to hold the kosher in your right hand. If you're a lefty, you hold it in your left hand. I'm a righty, so I picked up the kosher on my right hand, and I lifted up Avram on my left knee, and we're about to start singing V'hisha Amda. And we start singing V'hisha Amda. And as I said the words, I just became so choked up. And I couldn't look at everyone. I started crying, and everybody's wondering, what are you crying about? It's such a happy time. And I can't look at everyone, and I'm just looking down at these words, and these words are so painful to me. Not only one nation is trying to get rid of us, In every generation, it doesn't stop. They're trying to get rid of us. And I was thinking, Rabbeinu Shalom, we lost 6 million. We're losing so many soldiers in Eretz Yisrael. We were thrown out of Poland, out of Portugal, out of Spain, out of Morocco, Lithuania. Doesn't it end? When does it stop? What's going to be with my grandson? What's going to be with all the kids his age? The Baal God is telling us it never stops. And I just couldn't sing with everyone. Everybody was singing. I was looking down. I was so embarrassed because it's happy. And what am I crying? I'm going to have to go explain to everyone. I didn't want to explain at that point because it would just change the whole attitude and the atmosphere of the Seder. And I just caught myself and we just continued. We finished singing. And I decided that when the Seder is over, I'm going to take out every single Haggadah. I've got to get some solace from these words. I've got to find somebody who says something about these words. The Seder went on, Baruch Hashem, we finished. And then I started taking out every Haggadah that I had, looking up just on these words. Shelo yachad bovad omar aleinu l'chaliseinu. And finally I came to Haggadah of the Chidah. The Chidah, as many of you know, is Rabbi Chaim Yosef David Azaloi, a great Sephardic Gadol who wrote dozens and dozens of Sfarim, who traveled all over. And he asked a question. He says, what is the Baal HaGadah talking about? This is not true. It's not in every generation that they're trying to get rid of us. And the truth is, when you think about it, in America, look, like we said, we could have 100,000 at a MetLife Stadium, Shiyim Hashas. We have Beis Yaakovs, we have Kollels, we have Young Israels, we have shuls all over the country. And there were many generations when Yiddishkeit flourished. The Yidden were in Poland 700 years before the Nazis started. So there were many generations where Yiddishkeit flourished. What is the Baal HaGadah talking about? And he gives a brilliant answer. And he says it's not only the sword, it's the smile. And of course he's right. Because the smile in America means that Jennifer can get a job in any bank. And any Yid can get involved with any Goyish country club. And that's why, because of the smile in America, assimilation and intermarriage is over 65%. How could that be? We're free. We can do everything we want. We can teach Torah. We can tell our children about mitzvahs. And yet we're losing more than we ever lost before. How does that happen? That's what the Baal HaGadah is telling us. Sometimes it's the sword. Sometimes it's the smile. The Baal HaGadah is warning you, you got to keep your guard up. That's what he's saying. Shelo yachad bovad omad aleinu l'chalaseinu is not always like Hamas, Yamach Shemam, or the Nazis. But it's the kindness of the secular nations that just sucks us in. So all of you know that I'm a mile. Cholamoid, the first day Cholamoid. I had a bris in Long Island. Many of you are familiar with the community. Of all places, it's called Mount Sinai. And, right? It's a mixed marriage. The father's Napolitano, and the mother is a Jew. So obviously her parents wanted that there should be a bris, right? So it's a mixed marriage, but there's going to be a bris, Cholamoid Pesach. I tell you, I wish I would have had a camera to show you what was on the table after the bris. A blue box of Horowitz margaret and matzahs. Right next to the matzahs was a platter of bagels. Right next to the bagels was a meat platter. Right next to the meat platter was a cheese platter. Every avera you could think of. Chametz, matzah, basa, b'cholav. How did that happen? What does God say about a bris like this? What does Eliyahu Navi say about a bris like this? How did that happen? That didn't happen because of the sword. That happened because of the smile. Because Jennifer could meet, Tony in any golf club. And he could meet them any place, at any bar. Because a Jew can go any place. So because of the smile, that's how the intermarriage happens. And that's what we have to tell our children. Baruch Hashem, we live in America. Baruch Hashem, we live in a great country. But we have to keep our guard up. That's what the Baal HaGadah is telling us. Shelo yachad bovad omad aleinu l'chalaseinu.